Hello, my name is Brooke, and my pronouns are they, she, and this is the TNTea podcast. This is where you'll get any type of teen talk, some celebrity gossip, and some information about the Rose's upcoming shows, and more. So get your teacups ready, because it's time for the TNTea podcast, honey. So the tea that I'm drinking today is not really tea. I'm drinking a Coke. Regular Coke, not Diet Coke. Thank you very much. I don't have any fun facts or anything because I was very ill prepared to make this podcast, if I'm being completely honest with you. But I just want to tell you about how much regular Coke is better than Diet Coke, and I will die on that hill. Thank you very much, because Coke does not taste like chemicals, and Diet Coke does. I could do a whole podcast just about that, but that's all I'm going to say for right now. Okay, so this podcast is going to be a bit darker than others. Usually I like to have a little bit of fun on here, but the most fun was going to be those first two little segments. Today I'm going to be talking about some times that I was close to gun violence and the consequences that it had on me, personally. Like I said, it's going to be darker than others. So, I just want to give, a huge content warning for discussions about gun violence and, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Everything in that realm. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is, the 2008 shooting at Von Mar in Omaha. It's a formative memory for many Omahans. Personally, I can remember going to Westroads Mall that day with my mom. We would always go into the play area on the main floor. If you know what I'm talking about, you go in the main side doors and it's literally right there, right by Dick's Sporting Goods. I loved it there. I would always go in the winter since I couldn't play outside, and my mom wanted me to, get energy out. Like I said, I loved it there. And my mom and I left before anything happened, luckily. But what's crazy is that we were so close to being there when it did happen. From what my mom has told me, nothing seemed different that day. Some people say, the energy feels off on days like that, and I'll talk about that later, but she said that nothing in that moment felt off. It was just a normal day. Everyone went about their business, and nobody knew what was going to happen. However, my dad went to Westroads later before picking up my sisters from CCD because my church is very close to Westroads. They're across the street from each other. He was actually on his way before my mom called him and told him not to go. So she saw the news, so my dad ended up missing the shooting. He got very lucky that day, which is crazy to think about how my life could have gone completely differently if my mom did not turn on the TV that day. Others did not get as lucky, obviously. 8 people died on that day. I did just want to honor them in this moment because you're going to the mall to have fun, so that shouldn't have happened. It shouldn't have happened. But I was way too young at this time to fully process the situation. Obviously, I don't even remember that day specifically. I didn't know about it until years later. My mom chose not to expose that to me when I would have been 4 or 5 in that time. So I was really young. So it was probably for the best, but it's just crazy to think that in that moment, both of my parents were either at the mall or were going to the mall in that moment. One incident that I can remember extremely vividly was during my freshman year of high school. I feel like any person that has gone to public school has had a moment where they've been in a lockdown that was not a drill, which is not good. But this is a shared experience that a lot of American teenagers have, which we shouldn't, but that's just how it is. It was a rainy October day. I can remember the energy kind of being off that day. Like, something was up. I remember there were a few bomb threats that we got that day, like 3. There was, like, 3 fights before lunch. It was, I don't know what it was that day, but the energy was very off. I was sitting in math class, and we were watching a movie, and you usually don't watch movies in math, so we were, like, very, very excited. I can remember that the fire alarms were pulled, like, close to the middle of class, like, we had gotten pretty far into the movie. The fire alarms were pulled, so we all went outside. We just assumed it had something to do with the bomb threats, that they, like, pulled the alarms to, like, sweep the building. It was just us trying to justify it, because it was weird. And a lot of times people pull the fire alarms anyway. Like, that happens a lot. So we just assumed. And I go to a pretty big school, so someone could pull the fire alarms and someone could slip in without anyone noticing, which is unfortunately what happened. So we went back inside like nothing happened. I went to sit down and start watching the movie again when I think I just like barely sat down. Like, we sat down for like 5-ish minutes, not even, before someone came on the intercom and said, like, this is a lockdown, and she just repeated it, which is never what they say when it's a drill. They always say, like, hey, this is a lockdown drill. They'd always specify that it was a drill, usually. And something in her tone of voice just told me that this was, like, the real deal. I remember that people ran to the corner. Some kid, like, jumped over the desk. It's funny now, but it's not at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, we had 2 football players in our classroom, and so we basically told them that they had to fight off the shooter if he came in here, which everyone has their own little plan. Thinking back, I'm surprised that no one ran out of the building, but I'm pretty sure I don't remember anyone running out of the building in that moment. But anyways, we held our breath waiting for shots, because that's what you do. You see how far away they are. But none came, thank God. We got so lucky that day. It was a horrible tragedy what happened that day, and I'm not going to specify, I'm not going to say any names because that doesn't feel right. It's not my story to tell at all. I can only tell my experience. I'm not here to tell theirs. But it was not a shooting, so we got incredibly lucky. However, it's terrible that the first thing students assume that's happening, like, is a shooting. That should never be anyone's first thought, and I personally believe that no one should have to sit in their classrooms and think of escape plans just in case a shooting does happen. We shouldn't always assume the worst when a lockdown is called. I should not have sat in the corner of that classroom waiting for shots to come. Something needs to change. Something needs to change. I don't know if that's like government policies, but I'm not gonna spew politics at you. But we need common sense gun control, point blank period. And like, I live in a house where guns are accepted, but I personally believe that common sense gun control is needed in this country. It's too easy to get a gun. I shouldn't have to do. Today I just did an active shooter training at my work. I shouldn't have to worry about that. I shouldn't have to go into work and worry that the person that I ask to do, like, to put their mask on is going to pull a gun on me. I shouldn't have to worry about that. Something needs to change. Normally this is where I would do a gossip segment, but I've decided that I won't be doing that for this episode. It doesn't feel appropriate at all. I did just want to bring up that The Rose is doing a production of #Enough on April 20th, which is the anniversary of the Columbine shooting. It opens up a discussion about gun violence and what we as people can combat this. So if you enjoyed this discussion, and even if you didn't, please make sure to check out #Enough on April 20th at 7 p.m. There's one performance. It's a great opportunity, and I would love it if you could come.